Hi guys, welcome back to today's video. So for this lesson, 1.7, we're going to be looking at representing functions as graphs. All right, so let's get to it. So the first key concept of the day, so this lesson we're going to have no new vocab for this lesson. So we're going to jump into the first concept. And what does the first concept say? There's three things that we can do with functions, right? So there's like tables, right? We can make a table. So an example of a table is right here, and we have inputs and outputs, right? Inputs are represented by the variable x. Outputs are represented by the variables y. So in this case, for this table, we have 1, 2, and 4 as the inputs, and 2, 3, and 5 for the outputs. So for each pair right here, right? So now the second thing we're going to look at is called ordered pairs. And the x variable here would be the input, and the y variable here would be the output. So for each of these, right, you can see there's one pair right here, 1 and 2, second pair 2 and 3, and third pair 4 and 5. So we can formulate that. So if we have a table, we can make some ordered pairs like this. So the third thing is to graph it, right? So now that we have the ordered pairs, right? We have 1, 2, 2, 3, and 4, 5. We can just graph it. So this is how we would draw a graph, okay? So it might look a little bit new to you guys, it might not, but I'm just gonna talk a little bit about it. So we have the axis right here, that's called the x-axis, and the axis right here, the up and down, which is the vertical, right? So remember, vertical here, up and down, is the y-axis, and then the horizontal right here is the x-axis. So then I just basically label it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the y-axis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again. Then I just plotted the points, right? What does plot mean? So we have the x variable here, x and y. So that's 1, 2. So we're going to go over 1, right? X, go over 1 first, and then up 2. 1, 2, and then the second one, we're going to go over here 2, and then up 3, and then this one, the last coordinate, we're going to go over 4 and up 5. Right? So not too bad. So let's jump into the second key concept here. There are 4 ways that we can represent a function. And what are those 4 ways? The first one is by a verbal rule. So let's take a look at this example. It says the output is 1 less than twice the output. Right? So 1 less than twice the output. And you guys remember from the previous lessons, we talked about less than, right? Less than is kind of an example of subtraction, and twice the output is an example of multiplication. So the second way we can represent the function is by the equation, right? So we have the verbal rule, and from the verbal rule, we can get the equation, which is y is equal to 2x minus 1. So that's what it means, right? Translating from the words to the numbers, the math symbols. And then the third way we can represent it is by a table, right? So we have the equation right here. And so we just, let's make x like 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's the outputs, inputs, if you guys remember from this right here, right? X is the inputs, sorry, and y is the outputs. So in this case, the inputs could be 1, 2, 3, and 4. It could be anything else. It could be, let's see, like 10, 20, 30, 40. It can be anything. And then y is what we get out of it, right? So we plug in 1 right here, right? So y is equal to 2 times 1 minus 1. And what would that give us? So if we solve it, right, we would get y is equal to 1. And same thing, if we plug in 2, 3, and 4 into this equation, we will get out the outputs is here. And then finally, the fourth way we can represent a function is by graphing. So now that we have a table, we can graph it, right? Just like in the last problem, right? So this is what the graph will look like. So let's take a look at the first example here, right? The first example says to graph the function y is equal to half times x with the domain 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. So the first step always is to make a table. So if we're given this here, we're given the equation and the domain, let's make a table. So the x, right, if you guys remember from the last lesson, x is the inputs or the domain. They're basically the same thing. So we're given the domain. So what is the domain? So we can just fill it in, 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8, because we're given that, right? They said the domain is 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. Easy. So now what do? So now that we have x and the domain, we just plug it in, right? So we plug in 0 into x, right? So then we get out y. So we plug in 0 to x, we get half times 0. What is half times 0? That's 0. Let's plug in this as well. So what is half times 2? That would be 1. And then finally, if we plug in all the rest, we would get this. So this would be the output. Whoops. This would be the output, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the inputs would be 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. All right? So if you guys remember, x, again, is the domain, the inputs. Y is the outputs or the range. So let's plot a point for the ordered pairs, right? They say graph the function. So we need to plot a point for each ordered pair. So what are the ordered pairs? It'd be 0, 0, 2, 1, 4, 2, 6, 3, and 8, 4. Those are the ordered pairs. Let's plot it out. So 0, 0. Let's start that out. Do 1 dot right there, 0, 0, 2, 1. So we go over 2, up 1. 4, 2 over 4, up 2. And then 6, 3, so over 6, up 3. And then here, over 8 and up 4. And that would be it for graphing the functions. That's pretty easy. So let's take a look at the final example here, example number 2. This one's a little bit harder. So it says, write a rule for the function represented by the graph. Identify the domain and range. So we're given that this is the graph, right? And we have to write a rule for that function. So let's start off. Again, step 1 is always to make a table. So let's identify this. Well, what are these points? What are the points? So let's go over here. Let's see the first point right here. We're going over 1 and up 2. So we have the input is 1, and we're getting out the output is 2. And then for these ones, right, this one is 2, 3. The third point right here is 3, 4. Whoops. Finally, the fourth point here is 4, 5. All right, so now that we made a table, we can find the relationship. So what is the relationship between this? If you guys take a look at it, it seems like, right, it seems like the outputs, right, the outputs are 1 more than the x, 1 more than the inputs. So how do we write a function for this rule? Well, if you can see, right, is, let's see here, the output, right, 2 is greater than the input by 1. So the function here would be y is equal to x plus 1. And this one's a little bit hard to identify, but eventually if you guys do more and more of it, it'll be easy to identify what the function is. Finally, to identify the domain and range. So what is the domain? Again, domain is x, or inputs, so that's easy. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then what is the range? Well, the range is y, or outputs, which is 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, that's it. So thank you guys for joining me in this video, and I'll see you guys in the next time, okay? Bye.